Hi, it's Peter here. OM System OM-1 just got a firmware upgrade, and this video is about the firmware upgrade 1.1. It fixes some problems when using high frame rates in EVF and also stability with autonomous external recorders. So it's not a big upgrade. It's always advised to use the latest firmware in your cameras and your lenses. This fixes some freezing problems. The camera has frozen if you have used the high frame rates on your EVF, and also the stability with autonomous external recorders. And I really haven't had any problems with either of these, so I don't know what's been happening in some cameras, but I will update the firmware, of course, because there's a new one. Like I said, it's always advised to have the latest firmware on your camera. You can do it two ways. You can use OM Workspace on your computer or OM Image Share app. I tried to do it with the OM Image Share app, but it didn't work at the moment when this video was recorded. It told that 1.0 is the latest, but with the computer it went okay, no problem at all. But first you have to update OM Workspace in order to update the firmware on your camera. And to be honest, this is not the smoothest way to update firmware. First update the software and then update the firmware to camera. But this is the way it is, and it took me about 10 minutes in all. Of course, I do have quite fast Wi-Fi or internet connection, so it took me only about 10 minutes to do all this. But of course, if you have a slower, it might take a little more time. But let's look at the firmware upgrades in general. If you're looking for updating your other cameras, Olympus cameras than OM-1, then this video might help you. Even though I will show you on this video how to do it, it's the same way with any Olympus camera. So if you want to watch this, be fine, and you will learn how to do it. It's always advised to have the latest firmware, like I said. Then you know that the camera is working like it should. And also remember that lenses have also firmware updates. They are not that common, but sometimes when there is a new feature in camera, some lenses might get updated. The latest update is from the bigger one is from 2019 when MC20 was launched. And then there might be some updates for some lenses when focus stacking, for example, is compatible with new lenses, and all kinds of that type of firmware updates. When you're checking the update for your camera, it always shows you also if you need to update the lens, and that's also a wise thing to do if there is an update for the lens. Before you start updating your firmware in your camera, you need to do two things. The first thing is to check out that you have enough power in the battery. I recommend that it's fully charged. And then the second thing is to back up your settings. That's always a good thing. Even though this update doesn't interfere with your settings, it will, load them back to your camera. I tested it without making the backup. And it's always a good thing to back up, so just in case. Okay, let's first use the OM Workspace. You go here, camera, update, and follow the instructions. And remember, do not turn off the camera. Do not unplug it from your USB. So be sure that the camera stays. Don't, play around with the camera at the same time, because, if the USB cord gets detached, it might ruin the whole thing and the camera will need to be sent to repair. So be careful. Other than that, it should go okay. Like I said, it took me about 10 minutes to do the whole thing. So I do have a quite fast internet connection, so it took me 10 minutes to do all that with the computer, updating the software and all that. And after you have uploaded the new firmware and turned on the back on the camera, it will upload your settings, and then you can check that the new firmware is updated. And also it's a good thing to check that all your settings are like you want to have them, so that the uploading the settings were okay. If not, then use the backup to upload them again and you will good to go. I normally use OM Image Share app to update my firmwares, but this time, like I said, it only shows me 1.0 and it tells me that the camera is up to date, so I couldn't do it this way. The way it goes is that you connect your camera to your mobile phone via the Wi-Fi, and then you go to settings, camera management, firmware update, and you're good to go. It usually works quite well, and it is a bit faster than with the computer. So that is my preferred way, but this time I could not do that. But most likely in the future, if you're watching this later, try that first, and if it works like it should. And if you have any problems with the settings you have bought from me, then just contact me and I'll help you to make things right. An OM-1 is a very good camera, and here are some things that I found when I just got the camera. There are 20 interesting things, and the other video is about firmware updates in general if you have a different model from Olympus that you want to upgrade. But hey, thanks for watching and bye for now.